Welcome back to the Build Beyond podcast. As always, I'm your host, Chris Netley. The purpose of Build Beyond is to challenge and guide you so that you can reach your full potential. And I think that a lot of people don't even approximate their full potential because of some very common roadblocks. And this is something I've talked a lot about on this podcast. I've had several episodes on this. And even if I'm not doing a specific episode talking about roadblocks, it's just a common theme that comes up. Because what I do for a living is people usually don't come to me when things are going perfectly well. There's usually a problem. It's been going on for a while, and now it's starting to affect the fun stuff or the important stuff in life. Typically it's pain, but pain is often the initiator. So a lot of times when people have pain or injury, they don't go seek care immediately. It's when the pain or the injury either prevents them from doing something that they want to do or that they need to do, or that it's been going on long enough and they're not getting the results that they want. So they're looking for help. I always ask all of my patients what they think is going on, because believe it or not, you know your body better than anyone. So your intuition about what is going on with your own body, I would say that it's powerful. I would say the vast majority of the time when I ask that question, whatever comes out of my patient's mouth, it might not be the only thing that's going on, but it's definitely a contributing factor. And on the rare occasions when it's not a contributing factor, I have to explore that option, because I don't know. I can't make the assumption that it's not. And if we explore that option and their feeling is wrong, well, it's a really good opportunity to help put their mind at ease, because you have a feeling that something is going on with your body, and we cross all the T's and we dot all the I's, and we can rule that out. Well, it puts people's mind at ease, because usually some of the things that people are worried about, if we can take that possibility out of the equation, fear goes down, people start to calm down a little bit, and treatment becomes a little bit easier because a little bit of that weight is lifted off their shoulders. So today, what I want to do, I want to talk about hope and confidence. I think one of the biggest barriers to making healthy choices, the initial thing when people are not doing what they know that they probably should be doing, it's usually they say, well, I have a lack of time. It takes time to cook healthy meals, and it takes time to exercise, and I don't have time to sleep, and I don't have time to relax, I don't have time to go on walks, and I don't have time to enjoy healthy relationships. And while all of that is partially true, time does exist, and there are creative ways that we can make the best out of the time that you have. It's very rare that I run into someone who doesn't have the time to do these things. They don't have the time to devote to them that they would want to, but we can prioritize at least little bits of time here and there, and we can make that a routine. So once we get past that hurdle, that barrier of that feeling that I don't have enough time, the next barrier is usually I don't know what to do. And even if I earmarked time for this, I don't think I'd be using my time effectively, because I don't know how to make these changes. I don't know what's going to be even effective. Now, we've never had more access to information than we do now. The answers to all of your problems are on the internet. I think the problem now that people are facing is that there's too much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose. So that's where having someone like me can be helpful. If I'm working with someone and we're working on the time constraint issue, and I'm helping them filter information and giving them ideas and options that we think might work well for them. We've gotten past two of the main barriers. The third barrier is confidence. And I don't care who you are or how confident a person you are, we've all experienced this lack of confidence in ourselves that we can make the change that we need to make, or that we can make the change long enough to get what we want. That accountability. And that's also where someone like me can come into play and I can help. But I want to talk today about developing confidence, because I hope that this series of podcast episodes where we've been talking about motivation and confidence and developing a plan, I hope that these are helpful, because I think that you could, or I hope that you can go through these. I'm trying to make these podcasts not just informational, but actually you could use them. So today I'm going to go through a thought experiment. And if you feel like you're someone, you know you need to make a change, you want to make your change, but you're not confident that you can make the change, or confident that you can make the change long enough to get what you want, this is a perfect episode for you. And I want you to go through some of these. I want you to have this conversation with yourself, because the book that I'm going off of is written for helpers, like healthcare providers, but you can play this role with yourself. So I'm going to read you some stuff, and I'm going to try and read it in a way that you could use. So we want to first think about confidence talk. If you're still listening to this and you think, yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what I could do. Like if I did these things, this is the excellent solution that I know would get me the results that I want. Maybe it's a dietary change. Maybe it's routine exercise. Maybe it's walking. Maybe it's daily prayer. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to talk about initially the difference between self-efficacy and general efficacy. So you may be familiar with this concept of self-efficacy. In essence, self-efficacy is a person's belief that change is possible. General efficacy is the perception that this particular task or change can be accomplished, that at least someone can achieve it. So self-efficacy is whether I can do it, or with or without assistance. So for example, like that heavy piece of furniture is movable. That's general efficacy. Would I be able to move it by myself or with help? That is self-efficacy. And I think most people, when you're looking at these big changes, say dietary changes, exercise changes, big life changes, maybe changing jobs or whatever it is that you want to do, most people understand the concept of general efficacy. Other people have done it. It is, in general, it is possible. But with or without help, can I make that change? So self-efficacy is one important motivational element in how people decide whether to take action. Beyond the why of change, so you're thinking about the benefits or the reasons for change, are issues of perceived control. Do I have the ability? Do I have the resources? Do I have the time? And do I have the opportunity to actually do this? These considerations influence the intention to change, as well as the actual efforts to do so. It is possible to increase your self-efficacy through psychological interventions, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm not treating you, I'm hoping that you kind of walk through this and start to think about some of the things I'm about to go over. So self-efficacy is often a significant predictor of who actually gets what they want. You have to believe that in general it is possible, but then you also have to believe it is possible for you to do it. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself. And if you're struggling with this, I actually recommend that you write these questions down and then answer them. How might I go about making this change? Write it down. Make a list. What could be a good first step? So how might I go about making this change? We've got a long list. Look at that list. What could be a good first step? Based on my own experience, how could I make this change successfully? Maybe you've had success somewhere else. Maybe you at one point you accomplished something great at work, and you could recognize the skills and the attributes that you use to be successful there. Maybe you're a successful parent. Well, take those skills and those wins and then see if you can apply them to the change that you're trying to make. What obstacles do you foresee, and how could you deal with them? I think it's very common for people to get on a roll with something and then they hit a roadblock and they go, oh, guess I'm done with this. But if we predict the obstacles ahead of time, when they show up, it's just par for the course. We knew this was going to happen at some point. So write down all the obstacles. And then what gives you some confidence that you can do this? What is it about you? Let's get rid of that negative self-talk. Great, we get it. You don't have time. You failed before. All that stuff. For the a time being now, move that aside and just be positive. What gives you confidence that you can do this? So here's the questions. How might you go about making this change? What could be a good first step? Based on your own experience, how could you make this change successfully? What obstacles do you foresee and how could you deal with them? And what gives you confidence that you can do this? Okay, here's another good question. How could I go about it in order to succeed? Well, we can start with something called a confidence ruler. I'm pretty sure I've referenced this in other podcast episodes, but I think this is very powerful. You're going to ask yourself this question. How confident am I that I could do this if I decided to? On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is not confident at all and 10 is extremely confident, where would you say that you are right now? I'll say it again. How confident are you that you could do this if you decided to? It's a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is not confident at all, and 10 is extremely confident. Where do you fall on that right now? Once you write that down, so pause this right now, write that down. You're going to ask yourself these questions. Let's say, okay, let's give a hypothetical. Let's say you wrote a 5. You're right down the middle. Why am I at a 5 and not a 0 or a lower number? See what they did here? They're looking at the positive things. It would be easy to say that 5 and be like, well, why am I not at a 10? And you're focusing on all the negative things that are holding you back. But what got you to a 5? I mean, presumably, if you're at a 5, if you're at a 2, let's say, there's something in there from 0 to 2 that you thought, well, there's some confidence there. What are those things? That's what we're going to focus on. So what got you to the 2? What got you to the 5? What got you to the 7? Why not a lower number? Write that down. What would it take for you to go from a 5 to a higher number? Or a 2 to a higher number? And you can go back to some of these other lists that you made. How might someone help you go from a 5 to a higher number? So do you need help? If you're thinking, well, if I had a nutrition consultation, I think I could definitely go up. Or if I sat down with Chris, I think I could work through this. Maybe you need some help. Maybe you just need to go talk to someone who's done it before, or someone who's good at whatever it is you're trying to do, and get some ideas. So how confident are you that you could do this if you decided to, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is not confident at all and 10 is extremely confident? Where would you say that you are? And then you ask yourself these follow-up questions. Why am I at a 5 and not a 0 or lower? What would it take for me to go from a 5 to a higher number? And how might someone help me to go from a 5 to a higher number, for example. That's it. That's the exercise. Something simple like this may not be enough for you, but this could be, think about this, if you're struggling with confidence and you actually go back and you do this, what if this unlocks the door and gets you in momentum, and it gives you options when you hit those inevitable roadblocks, and you've got this list of things to go off of, and you've measured your confidence. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And this gives you an opportunity to make lists, to measure things, to ask for help. It's simple, but it's very powerful. If you want help with this, maybe you want this stuff in writing, shoot me a message. I'll send you something. If you want to get on a call or you want to book an appointment, we can do that as well. For anyone who's listening, I only have a license to practice in Michigan, so you'd have to be in Michigan. But if you're outside of the state and you feel like you need help, you can still message me. I know people in other states. Maybe I can connect you with somebody, or I can give you an idea, maybe based on what you tell me, what type of healthcare provider or helping professional might be appropriate for you. I could help you, give you a list of options. I'd definitely be willing to do that. Okay, I hope this episode has been helpful, and I appreciate you if you're still listening. If you are still listening, if you're not following, I would love it if you would follow this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. And then obviously, if you could like it, if you could give me a 5-star review, with comments would be amazing as well. And share it. Share the episode if it's been helpful for you. All right. Thanks for listening.